Hi, welcome to my channel Mostly Knitting. I'm Tash and it is Thursday the 12th of October 2023 and I'm recording in Sydney, Australia. If you're new here, this is a podcast where I talk mostly about the knitting that I've been doing during the week and if there's any sort of challenges or wins that I've had along the way, things I've learnt, and then I usually try to put out a midweek tutorial on something that I've learnt or something that someone's asked about. So this week, I'll get straight into finished objects. I have two finished objects, one which I'm wearing. This is the Thea top by Susanne Muller, and I used Sandnes Garn Line for the, which is a cotton and linen blend. So it's a sleeveless top. Yeah, I'm really happy with it. I made a few changes to the pattern. So I'll just show you that's where the armholes fit me, and I'll discuss some of the changes that I made. It's got a reasonably high back neck. It doesn't have any shoulder shaping, but that seems to be okay. I don't think it's much, it's not dipping too much at the back, and it's certainly, like, the neckline's totally fine because it's got such a round neckline. The fact that there's no shoulder shaping, because it's not a high neckline, it's not choking me up here. Yeah, it's got very sort of just a little bit of 1x1 ribbing. So I'll talk to you a little bit about what I did differently. So for this pattern, I struggled to get gauge, and so I went down a couple of needle sizes. So I used a 3.5mm wood needles, so that was 2 sizes down from a 4mm, and the ribbing I used a 2.75 instead of a 3, so just 1 size down instead of a 3mm. And then I did a tubular bind off on a 2.5mm needle for all of the areas. So 5 rows of ribbing and then a tubular bind off for all of the, yeah, and I think it's actually really great. I'm wearing it with jeans at the moment, but the reason I made it was mainly to wear it with sort of brown or pink, I don't know, beige, maybe not too beige on beige, but you know, something in the brown taupe sort of family to wear for work. So yeah, what else did I do differently? I cast on a few less stitches. I think a total of, so you cast on up here and you do the back and then you work down the front. So the cast on that I did here, I did 8 less stitches. I think at the time I thought, oh, maybe I've taken off too many. I took off 1 for each strap and 6 off in the middle. I didn't mean to take off that many. I think I only meant to take off 6 instead of 8, but anyway, my math failed me, or just cast on in a rush. And then, but actually I think it's fine. Like, it's turned out really good. I wouldn't change anything. It covers my brass. Oh, does it cover my brass straps? I might have to peek that in a little bit. Maybe with that 1 extra stitch, that wouldn't have, yeah. Anyway, I guess I just need to make sure that's in a little bit. Yeah, so I don't think I would do anything differently. I really like this yarn. It was quite hard on my hands. I have to say I couldn't do a lot of this knitting all in one sitting, but you know, as long as I had other things to work on, which I always do, and I just, you know, wasn't in a rush to finish it, it's totally fine, and I'll definitely make another one. So yeah, really happy with that. And I think, oh, I will just mention the finished measurements. It ended up being a 28-inch around, and my bust is 32 inches with a bra on, I think with a bra on, yeah. So that's 4 inches of negative ease, but that seemed to work fine. Like, it doesn't feel too tight here. And the length, I knit it to, including the ribbing, 12 inches from here down. And then in blocking that grew to 13 inches, and that feels like a good length for me. Like, I can actually tuck it in if I need to, but also it sits, you know, it sits out okay as well. So yeah, really happy with that one. So that's my first finished object, and my second finished object is the Sophie Scarf. So this is my second Sophie Scarf. I knit one out of some DK weight yarn that I wasn't exactly sure what it was, and I knit this almost exactly to pattern. I increased to 35 stitches instead of 33, and then this one here I changed it up a little bit. I increased to 20, then I knit straight for a while, and then I decreased. I think so. I blocked this kind of halfway, and it stretched from what was going to be halfway. It stretched from about 17.5 inches to 22.5, but then it sort of shrank back a little bit. So I ended up adding a little bit more in the middle. I'll put on my project page on Ravelry just how many rows I did, you know, in between where I got to 20 and then where I started decreasing. So I only blocked it halfway, so it hasn't been blocked again. I only finished it this morning. So it's that much shorter. I did think that I wanted this red one to be a little bit shorter, and I think probably after blocking it will be just about the right. At the moment, it's 41.5 inches long, and I reckon I'll probably get to about 45. So I'll just, oh, where'd it go? Maybe it is a little bit short. Right, so this is 41.5 inches. And it's really more like a little, when it's this narrow, it's a bit more of an accessory. So I think that's probably just a tiny bit short. So I think if I can get to 45 inches, that will probably be okay. Yeah, and look, I really don't like having a cold neck, and some of my jumpers have sort of quite wide necklines. So I think this kind of scarf will be really nice for that kind of situation. So I'll just put the other one on so you can see, put it that way, like the little point at the front, doubled over. So this one went to 35 stitches. Yeah, I like both of them. So like I'm trying to, when I block this, I'll sort of, you know, play around a little bit more, because I definitely plan to make more of these. And similar to the muscle bra where I've made 16 of them now, I think the Sophie Scarf could be one where I make a number of them until I sort of figure out my sweet spot for just, you know, how wide I want it to be and how long I want it to be. So I'm happy to have the first few sort of a bit experimental until I get it to where I'm happy. So they're my two finished objects, and I'm going to move into my works in progress now. Right, so I do have a new work in progress, and that is the Anker tee by Petite Knit. I had planned to make it out of this Habu bamboo, and I still do plan to make it out of this, but I've swatched a couple of times and I'm having trouble hitting gauge. So this was on 4mm needles, and after washing it, it was 18 stitches. The pattern's 20 stitches, so that's a little bit big. I tried again on 3.5mm needles, and so I did a little bit of the regular pattern and then also the ribbing. And like it's definitely, like this is super drapey, which is really nice. This is a little bit more, this is firmer, but even like before blocking, I got 22.5 stitches. After blocking, 18.5. So it's stretched out massively, which is just, and yet it feels so much denser than this one. Like you can sort of, you can tell by like this one here. Oh, I suppose this one was in front of me. If I put them both sort of with the light behind them. But yeah, I think you can tell this one's definitely this one's much more open. Anyway, so I still haven't hit gauge. So I think what I have done is I've decided to swatch or to start with some secondary yarn. So yarn that I still like and I still want to wear, but it's not as precious to me. So I'm going to try one first with this Katia Espiga. And I actually showed in my top last week that I was wearing the Stratford top. If you saw that video, a really bright red, that's the same yarn. And I knit it on a 3.5mm needle. I've worn it. I know the gauge is around 21 stitches, so I know that's going to be pretty close. It's a bit smaller, but I can, you know, I can work with that, and just, you know, increase a little bit more along the way or put more stitches on under the arms if I need to. Right, so what did I do differently? Of course, I've already done stuff differently besides this is a 3.5mm needle. So I've talked in previous videos, and it was Karen, who's Casuarina girl, and who mentioned this, that sometimes the ribbing looks nicer on the reverse side. So if you're knitting in the round, 1x1 rib looking a little bit nicer on the reverse side. So what I decided to do was I cast on, and then I'm going to knit. I'll show you. This is actually the wrong side. So I'm knitting this way. Like I'm knitting this way out. So that's my presentation side as I'm knitting. You can see those knit stitches are a bit larger, and then that's how it's going to look. I think those knits, maybe you can't see a difference. I think it's a little bit better. It's a little bit neater. compared to that. Anyway, so to compensate for that, what I ended up doing, because I didn't want to have, when you do a long tail cast on, you join to knit in the round, you get that really nice smooth edge. But then if I'm doing this in reverse, that would be on the inside, and then this bumpy bit would have been right around my neck, which I didn't want. So I knit the first row flat, then join to knit in the round. So I'm knitting like this with the bumpy bits, and then that will be the presentation side. I hope that makes sense. So I'm knitting this way. Then what you have to do with the pattern is you get to a point where in between the 1x1 rib, there's a couple of rows of stockinette stitch, and that's where the increases, the yoke increases happen. So what I'm going to do there is I'll do a German short row, and then come back around and knit sort of right side out instead of inside out, knit all those increases on the knit side, do another German short row, and then go back and knit in reverse. And I thought, because somebody asked about that, how I actually do that, I'm right at the point where I finished the 10 rows of 1x1 rib, and I'm about to do the German short row and do the stockinette section. So after I finish this video, I'll do a recording of that and then post that during the week. So yeah, so that's, I mean, I think this is a really nice cotton, I think it's a cotton rayon yarn, or cotton, I don't know, cotton nylon, something. It's like about half, but it's really nice. It's actually quite nice to knit with. A little bit like most non-wool fibers, there's less give, so it's a little bit harder on my hands. But I like this color. I mean, it's, you know, it's a little baby blue, but that's okay. I think it'll be nice with, you know, with white or beige, maybe, I guess. Yeah, and I'm looking forward to having, like, trying out the Anker tee with this yarn, and then working out the sizing, like what my finished, you know, measurements I'd like it to be. And I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to weight this swatch here. I also did the ribbing because I wanted to see what that looked like from, that was the size, like which side was I knitting it from? That side versus that side. Maybe with that dark yarn it's hard to tell. They both actually look pretty nice. I might not bother with this actually. That was one of the reasons for swatching. I wanted to see what did my 1x1 rib look from the right side and from the wrong side. And it actually looks pretty similar. I don't know if I'm getting this too close to you, like if you can't see it very well. I can't see, with that I can't see much of a difference. So anyway, it'll be nice not to have to worry about that hassle, but obviously like this is going to end up really large, but I might like that. I might like that to be a bit of an oversized tee. So anyway, we'll see. But that's my first work in progress, and I'm pretty sure like I'll start it with this one after I've finished this one. So that's number one. Number two is the one that I'm wearing, which is the Ranunculus. So this is, I'm knitting this with Tynne, I am attached, here it is, I can find it. Tynne, so that's the Thea top that I was wearing. This is the fingering weight version of that. And I had 2 balls of that, and I've only just really started the second ball. And this is La Bien Aimee silk mohair. So those two together, actually pretty good, pretty close. So I did a long tail cast on, followed the rest of the pattern, and I am doing, well, I've done one sleeve. So since I last podcasted, I wanted to do one sleeve just to get an idea of like how that sort of pulled it up a little bit and how long to knit it. So I've done one sleeve, I haven't done the other one. And where am I up to with it? I've done maybe 6 rows of ribs, so I've got a bit more to go. I wanted to have some pretty deep ribbing. So this only has, I think I did maybe 3 rows of stockinette and then 5 rows of twisted rib. And yeah, I just think this is really, really pretty. Like it's such a, I love this sort of delicate petal pink color. And you know, I was a bit unsure about wearing it over a white tank because of the difference in like the white here and then the skin here, but like I haven't managed to find a nude camisole. So, you know, I'll definitely wear it with something like this until I find one. So really just a little bit more, this should be finished by next week, that's the plan. Bit more ribbing here and one more sleeve, and sew in a few ends and it'll be done. And obviously I'm on 5mm needles now for the ribbing, that's going pretty quickly. So that's my Ranunculus. My next work in progress is Pink Velvet. So this is Pink Velvet by Andrea Mowry. I'm knitting it using Wollmeise Twin in the colorway Feldmaus, and that's a pretty sort of a heavy fingering weight yarn, I'd say. And this contrast is the Qing Fibre. It's like a Suri alpaca, other fluffy stuff blend, super fluffy, and that is the yarn that's recommended in the pattern. So even though like this is a superwash yarn, which is not always the best for color work, I mean, it's okay. I use Tosh Merino Light for it, and that's a singles yarn. I use that a lot for color work. But anyway, this one, it doesn't have a tight twist, which is my main, like that for me is the main type of yarn that I wouldn't use for color work, something with a really tight twist. So this one's a pretty smooth yarn. It works okay. And then this one, the Qing Fibre, is so fluffy that it covers pretty much any sins that this one might have. Like it just sort of, yeah, like I'm really happy with that. Like I think it's a really lovely. So obviously I've finished the yoke, which is the color work section, and that's all there is. There's no other color work on the sleeves or anything. So it's, I'm just going to knit it straight down the body, and the sleeves I haven't decided yet in terms of how my decreases and whatever will go. The only thing I did differently, I used a slightly smaller needle on the cast on. So I used, the body's on 3.5 and I used a 3mm for the cast on instead of a 3.25. I usually like to go at least 2 needle sizes down. Even then it's got quite a wide neckline. There are some short rows in the back. But it's still quite a wide, you know, so I guess with the cast on, it's a fairly large neckline. I'm okay with that. This might be something that I would actually like to do a Sophie scarf that would go with it, or that I could accessorize with it, because this is quite warm and I'm going to make it long sleeves, and yet I'd have this big area exposed. So I'd want to have something around my neck, whether it's some kind of shawl or just maybe a little Sophie scarf to have in my handbag to throw on. Yeah, so obviously I've finished the yoke and I cast on 12 stitches under the arms instead of 15. I'm making the smaller size, which is I think a 32-inch bust, which is what my bust is. I'm bang on gauge, which is hurrah, 24 stitches over 4 inches, and I've used this yarn before on this size needles, and that's I'm pretty consistent with that on my gauge. And my gauge is pretty good with wool. It's a little bit iffy with the plant fibers. I guess I must knit them a bit loosely, and I'm usually knitting them on metal needles. So that might be, when I went down the needle size for the Thea top to the 3.5mm needles, I also used wood needles. So that made a big difference actually. So I might start doing a little bit more work with wood needles when I'm using the like bamboo or that's a good point actually. This one I was going to swatch on the bamboo needles, but I also realized that I don't have a 3.5mm 40cm bamboo needle. I've got one like tips for a 60cm, but not for a short one. So, and obviously at the start of the Anker tee, you need like a small one. So I might have to invest in 3.5mm wood needles and see if that makes a difference with this. I might swatch with wood for this. Hang on a minute, I did swatch with wood. Okay, scratch that. I did. That was swatched with 3.5mm Harmony needles. So yeah. So, and it still went out to 18. So anyway, okay, I won't bother with that. But look, it did make a difference. It definitely did make a difference with my Thea, and maybe on a large, you know, because I have had that experience with swatches lying a little bit in a little square. So anyway, back to the pink velvet. I'm not going to do any waist shaping. I just want this to be not necessarily oversized, but not a fitted sweater, just straight down. Now with the sleeves, I haven't even had a look at the pattern yet, but I noticed in Andrea's, the sleeves look pretty snug, and I have, like my arms, I've got really big, like it probably doesn't seem like it, but here, from here down, I've got really big forearms. My forearms are almost as big as my biceps. They're not that much smaller. So if I decrease like the pattern, it's really, really tight here on my arm, which is really uncomfortable. So I probably, even if I will decrease, I'll decrease quite slowly and maybe even do quite a large section straight, because that's, my arm is pretty straight from here to here. And then a little bit more frequent decreasing down to my wrist, because that's a bit smaller at my wrist. Anyway, you didn't need to know that much about my body, but what I'm and the weirdness of where it doesn't go down as fast as other people's. But what I'm saying in that is that it's worth not just following whatever the decrease rate is every 8 rows or whatever the pattern says. If you know in your own body that will leave it like skin tight here and uncomfortable, you don't have to do that. You can do decreases and then straight for a while, and then a few more decreases, right? It just does require a lot of trying on, and that's a little bit, it's just a bit tedious. That's kind of why I like the second sleeve, because whatever I did with the first, that's what I'm doing for the second. So I couldn't even imagine doing 2 sleeves at the same time, because then you'd lose any mistake I made in ripping back. I'd have to do twice. And I get the benefit of just working out all the numbers. I have to write things down, and obviously you can tell where the decreases happen, you can see them, but you know, I get it all worked out and I'm happy with it, and I block one sleeve, make sure it's the right length, and then I get the joy of just, I know exactly what I'm doing and I don't even have to worry, like I'm doing what I did for the first one. Anyway, so I'm excited about this. I think it's really pretty. I just love this yoke. And I wasn't even as drawn to it when it first came out. And then Beck sort of reminded me of it, and she said she wanted to knit it. And then I was like, oh, yeah, that is really pretty. And so I'm obviously following the colors very similar to what Andrea did. So, yep, so that is my work in progress number 3. Number 4 is Camisole number 5. I'm not gonna try it on because it's a bit, I tried it on last week and not that much has changed. A little bit. I'm happy about this. I've woven in a lot of the ends, and I've picked up, so last week I'd only just finished this sleeve and I hadn't picked up yet, so I've picked up for the sleeves and I've just started the double knitting. Sorry, this is the Camisole number 5 by My Favorite Things in Wollmeise lace. So that's the lighter, two sort of lighter down from, there's Wollmeise Twin, then there's Wollmeise 100%, and then there's Wollmeise lace, which is lighter again. And I would say that's kind of like a heavy fingering, no, light fingering, like a 3-ply. So this is in the colorway Schwefel, and I only have 100 grams. So that's why I wanted to get all of the finishing out of the way, and then I can just, with whatever I've got left, knit down the body. So I've only got that far down the body. I've got like, I think I've got about 40 grams left. And so I've knit about 60 grams. So that should work, I think. The only thing I'm a little nervous about, on this one, this band, I picked up with a 2.75mm needle and started doing it, the double knitting, and realized, oh, that's a bit big, and I switched to a 2.5. With this one, I didn't really think about that. I just picked up with a 2.5, and afterwards I thought about it and thought, oh, those stitches, the size of them will be a little bit smaller than here. So I'm just crossing my fingers that it won't actually visually or physically make a difference. Yeah, so the size of those stitches in the pickup, they were picked up on a 2.5 instead of, so their size will be a little bit smaller. So I'm just, yeah, I'm hoping as I knit it. So I'm kind of hoping, really would love for this whole double knitting to be done. And then I get just like this, straight down. This is 2x2 rib, but at least it's just straight down. And it looks tiny, but there's just a ton of negative ease there. So when negative ease? Ton of stretch. Obviously it's negative ease, but it's super, super stretchy. So I might even block it after I've finished. I might even, but I might do that before I actually start the rest of the body, just to see how well that, if that is an issue, and how well that blocks out. So that's it for my garment whips. I finished one garment and I cast on a new one, so I'm still on 4 garments, but all quite different garments. And now I'm on to my non-garment whips. So I have 2. I have a shawl and a pair of socks. The first one is Exploration Station by Stephen West, and I've chosen colors that are either the same or very similar to his original design. So the ones that are the same, this is Tosh Merino Light, Neon Peach, and Antler. And the ones that are a bit different are this dark one here. Stephen used El Greco and I used Graphite because I had that in stash. And this is Swiss yarn in like an apricot-y color, which is similar to Reindeer. So yeah, I'm really liking how it's coming along. I have finished, since last week, I finished the the slip stitch section and done the, the border between the sections. And now I'm ready to do the knit section. So it's all knitting. And it's actually quite interesting with this one because it's what do you call it? Like 2 rows of each, but to prevent, when you do garter stitch and you knit 2 rows and then you knit 2 rows with another color and you get the mismatched purl bumps. So instead what the pattern does is you knit all the way along with one color, and then on the same side again, knit all the way along with the other color. Yes. Something like that. I can't remember. I think that's what it is. And then you do in reverse as well. Anyway, it just looks like garter stripes, but without, I think I've got that right. Garter stripes, but without the mismatched purl bumps. So at least I think that's right. I haven't done it yet, but that's the impression that I'm getting. I'll have to have another look at the pattern. So anyway, that's where I'm up to. And because that is just knitting, I'm much more likely to reach for this, because I can do that when I'm reading or whatever. It's just a lot. Obviously this isn't really portable knitting in the sense that I couldn't be like walking and knitting this, but I can be watching TV or reading a book or whatever, and if it's just knitting, I'm not going to make any mistakes. So well, I hope not. So that's exploration station, just slow and steady, bit at a time, and it's coming along, and that should be maybe a couple of weeks hopefully. And my last work in progress are my Skimmer socks by Sheila Stromberg, and I'm using leftovers of mustache yarns in the colorway Sutra. So this one is I'm just about ready to do the start the gusset increases. So I've done cast on 24, increased to 64. I think I knit 16 rows, and then you put this on holders. I've knit 47 rows, and then now I'm about to do the like the heel, fiddly bit a little bit. That's that one, and then this one I'm sort of knitting at the same time. I've got 8 more rows, and then the gusset increases. So I kind of knit 2 at a time, but I don't do them on the same needle because that just doesn't sound pleasant to me. I don't like yarn management, and I deal with it when I feel like I have to, but I wouldn't do it voluntarily. So yes, when I don't have to. So that's my last work in progress. I'm up to now Friend from the Vault. Right, so my Friend from the Vault is another blanket. My husband was saying that I crocheted all these blankets for the kids and he would really love a blanket. So I decided to knit him one instead of crochet, and I showed him a few different ones, and he liked this Masoni inspired chevron blanket by Kelly Kingston. So I knit this out of Cascade 220 Superwash, and I used I think 9 different colors. They're all on my project page, so I'll put my project page in the description and you can click on there because I've got the name and the number. So it's 220 Superwash, so just in case something happens to it or the dog lies on it or whatever, it just gets I actually don't know, aside from blocking it, I don't know that I've even washed this yet. I don't think it's really needed a wash, and I knit this 7 years ago, so I mean, I probably could do with one. But yeah, it doesn't, like, aside from just being on top of us on the couch, it's a lap blanket. I cast on exactly the number of stitches in the pattern, which was 241 stitches and 350 rows. So yeah, I really like it. He really likes it. He calls it his whoopee, and yeah, you can see he's not super tall. It's plenty long enough for him. It's not a 2-person blanket, it's a 1-person blanket. So it's wide enough. Let me see. It's wide enough, and you probably can't get that. I'm just holding it up. So I'm 5'3" if I'm lucky. Yeah, yeah, it's about my height. It's about my height. So yeah, so that's my, it was a really easy pattern. Like it's mostly just, you know, increases and decreases to create the chevron. Other than that, it's just knitting and purling. So yep, and yeah, but I did, I think I knit it pretty quickly because it's wool, so it was easy to knit. And also I just was really, like, just really enjoying watching the colors unfold. It was, you know, stripes always, yeah, you just want to get on to the next color. So that's my friend from the vault. What has caught my eye, this time actually isn't patterns, it's more just things that I've noticed that people either do or their technique. So two things. One is Diana from Fruitful Hands. She showed that her notebooks where she sort of, you know, makes notes about the pattern and she sticks down one of the yarn labels. And yeah, I just thought, like, I really liked that idea. I thought that was a really clever, I write all over the project page, but then, you know, sometimes it gets lost or and I try to put my notes on Ravelry, which is really important for me, but I really like the idea of a project page with, you know, the yarn label stuck in so that, you know exactly what you used. And well, I suppose that's on Ravelry too, but yeah, I don't know, like, I also like things, like I have a bullet journal, I like things in paper, so that was something that caught my eye, and I think I'd like to do that. And also, I forgot to mention my ranunculus, and I'll put the hashtag for because that is a knit along with the Fruitful Hands. So the other thing that's caught my eye is just something that when I was watching Hella from Danish Musings, probably a couple of episodes ago, she was talking about Jenny's surprisingly stretchy bind off, and because it is so stretchy, dropping one of the yarn overs. So in Jenny's surprisingly stretchy bind off, you put a yarn over between every stitch when you bind off. So you get down to one stitch, yarn over, work the next stitch, and then take two off. Yarn over, work the next stitch, take two off. But that creates a lot of extra fabric. So she suggested just not doing the ones before the pearls, I think. Whereas for me, I would skip the ones before the knits, because the ones before the knits are actually harder to get off. The ones before the pearls are kind of easy. They're the regular yarn overs. If you don't know what I'm talking about, sorry, if you've never done Jenny's surprisingly stretchy bind off, it is a great bind off. It's really good for the tops of socks and things where you really need it to stretch, but sometimes it can be a little too, and it can flare a little bit. So I like the idea of only adding the extra yarn over every other stitch. And for me, I would add it before the pearl, because that's a regular yarn over and it's easier to get off the needles than the reverse yarn over before the knits, which is harder to get off. Anyway, and I always try to make my knitting a little bit easier. So that's kind of what's caught my eye. That's not quite, not a thing or not a pattern, just like a project, or no, not a project, a technique. So, right, I'm up to purchases and plans. So I had planned to make the half and half wrap with yarn from Pearl Soho, but when it arrived, it wasn't the colors together. I'll put a picture of what I was going for with, like, in terms of the contrast with Andrea Mowry's sweater, and I'll put the name of it down below. I can't remember the name of it, but it was this really icy blue with a red that I really like, a poppy orangey red that I really liked. And when this arrived, this was a bit orangier than I liked. That's not a word. More orange than I liked. Not as red leaning as I would have wanted. And then this was a little bit too, this was a darker blue than I wanted. I think, like, I saw on their website a color that I thought actually probably was more what I was going for and more in line with Andrea's sweater. And I really do like these two together. This is still not the perfect orange, but like I think it will be, because that's the bit that's gonna be hidden. Like, this will be mostly my presentation with a half and half wrap. I'm really happy with these two together. So I got 3 skeins of this, and with this one, either that's enough to make like a jumper or a dress, or, you know, there's 400, I think there's 400 yards in 439 yards, so 400 meters in this. So I've got 1200 meters, so that is tons. I could make a dress, I could make, you know, a full, you know, length jumper, like full sleeve jumper with that. So either that or I'll destash it, but actually it's a really lovely blue. So I think I will make something with that. In the meantime, I'm going to do another swatch for the half and half wrap. The first swatch that I did, did like an I-cord edging with the 3 edge stitches. And I think what I'm going to try for this swatch, I will do just slipping the last stitch. So instead of slipping all 3 stitches, just slipping the last stitch. I think I don't want quite as bulky an edge. I just want the nice sort of slip stitch edge. So I'm going to, and I think last time I cast on only 15 stitches, and that was a kind of an unusable swatch. I'd like to make like a little coaster out of the swatch. So I'll cast on a few more stitches and actually hopefully have something that can be like a little mug rug. So that is purchases and plans. And yeah, because I think that half and half wrap would be a really nice in front of the TB knit. You know, just really, yeah, mostly knitting. Other things that I plan to make. The Sophie Scarf that I just finished. So I'm just looking for my jumper that I want. I don't know where I put it. I'll just put a picture of it. The Ingle sweater in Madelinetosh pashmina and held with some Kremke sole wool mohair and kind of like a, you know, a mauvey sort of color. So this is the pashmina by itself, and I think I'll either make a Sophie scarf with this alone, so I could wear that with that jumper, because even though I made the neckline a little bit smaller, it's still pretty wide-ish. So I thought that might make a nice Sophie scarf in the pashmina. It's quite light, but there's definitely purple, like lilac in that. I'm not really sure whether to do it by itself or to do it with the mohair. With the mohair, that will be super matchy with the jumper. So I'm thinking I might just do it like by itself, and then it will kind of like go with it without being exactly the same. So that is probably gonna, that was quite a nice, it was a nice easy knit. I don't exactly love the short rows. Like I'd much rather either not have to turn at all or not have to turn as often. Like that's what I like about Exploration Station. I've got like 300 stitches on the needle. So I'm like, you know, when I do a row, I really do a row. Whereas here I do a row, it's like 20 stitches turn around. Not even 20, this one with 20 stitches and you slip the last 3. So you're only knitting 17 stitches. That's a lot of turning. Anyway, I think I'm going to make I'm not sure, I'm going to play with these a little bit. I'm not sure how many stitches I'll get to on this one. I might go more, because the pashmina is a bit lighter in weight. These two are DK. I forgot to mention what yarn that was. That's Skein Merino Cashmere DK and I overdyed it in RIT Cherry Red. So I might use a needle size down, like a 3.25mm needle, and maybe knit it a bit like, certainly wider than 20 stitches, or that would be incredibly narrow with the pashmina on a smaller needle. So that's more upcoming plan. The other things that I'm still very keen to knit are the Sailor Swift top by Veronica Lindberg, and I think I'll use these 2 Rowan cotton glacé and this chocolate brown and this really nice pink. I think I've settled on those 2 as a good combo. And I still want to make the Soho top by Kadri, and this is using Pearl Soho Sweetgrass and let me see, I can't remember. Anyway, I did a swatch with the recommended needle size, and I can't remember the colorway name. I'll put it down below. That feels really nice, but it's maybe a little bit dense. I might, I'm still thinking about maybe swatching on 1 needle size up, because my gauge is actually a little bit tighter, which is really odd. Like this is a cotton alpaca blend yarn. Everything else, my gauge has been bigger. This one, it's smaller. So who can pick it? And what else am I planning to make? I've got this beautiful La Bien-Aimée. I have 2 of these for another ranunculus, seeing that one's gonna be finished soon. And I'm going to hold this double because I've got another skein, so I'll hold those 2 double. And I'm pretty sure I'm going to wind this, and I'm going to try threading those beads on. Sorry, it's sort of blown. Yeah, it's hard to see. I'll protect it a little bit from the light. I'm going to try putting those beads on. I'm not exactly sure where I'll put it on. Maybe on the slip stitches for the ranunculus, or maybe on the flower section. But I would like to do some beads on there. And I still plan to do Alpine Bloom in Tosh Merino Light in the colorway Nocturne and Peach Bellini, and I will not do the frilly neckline. I'm just going to do a twisted rib. I do love a good twisted rib. It is very pretty, and it even looks nice on the presentation side. You don't have to do it inside out. It looks really nice on the side that you knit it. So I think that's probably it for my plans. Oh, I do have the leftover red yarn, wherever it is, from the red yarn from this. I might make into the December bow. I just think, you know, for Christmas might be nice. Because I think I'm going to finish those skimmer socks pretty soon. I found some more yarn in my stash. This is yarn that my aunt gave me, Louie and Lola, which is just like a 4-ply sock yarn. I've got 2 this size, so that's definitely enough to do another pair of skimmer socks. This is like a brown with just lots of really pretty colors. I think that will make a really nice pair of skimmer socks. So I do have still lots of plans. There are other things, you know, like Camisole No. 4, Kuta top, field sweater, stripe hype sweater, lots of things in my, you know, in my plans. But, you know, I can only knit one. Well, I was going to say I can only knit one thing at a time. Technically, I can only physically knit one project at a time. I don't have 8 arms, but obviously I have lots on the needles. But yes, I can actually only work on one thing at a time. So I don't want to, I'm down to 6 now. I think, like, I don't want to go above 7. I think that's probably enough, or I'm starting to get a bit out of control. But the Ranunculus is nearly finished. And some of the other things are kind of onto simple parts now of just straight stockinette. So yeah, getting there, and I'm really enjoying my knitting at the moment. So yeah, what am I up to now? Oh, so hidden whips basket. I just might say, if you're new here, I had this skirt that I dyed and dyed again, and I was going to dye it purple last weekend, but I just ran out of time. So you haven't really missed anything. It's like, I'm actually really nervous that I've felted it and it's not even going to fit. So I think before I even bother dyeing it purple, I'm just going to, like, I keep wrapping it around me when I've got jeans or something on, and it doesn't go around me, and I'm like, oh, but I've got jeans on. But I think I might try and wrap it around me without jeans on and just see, do they meet? Like, do they overlap? Like, will this even fit? Or, because it might not have looked felted, but it's been in boiling water, or very hot water, and then boiling water for like half an hour, or simmering water. It may not have looked matted, but it could have shrunk. So before I dye it, I'm just going to check before I go through that whole process again. Right, now on to other craft. I didn't sew, but I did some things that were sewing adjacent. I cut out the fabric and marked for the field bag and the town bag. So I bought some kits for these from Grainline Studio a while back, and I chose to buy the kits where the pieces aren't cut out for you. You just have enough fabric, and you get the pattern as well, and all of the supplies and things. So like the grommets and the so like for the field bag, you've got this cord and you've got this strap, and for the town bag you have these sort of woven straps and things, and grommets and rivets and things. So it had all of that. Of course, it doesn't have a grommet setter or a rivet setter. I did find I do have a rivet setter, but I don't have a grommet setter. I'm not even sure that I will bother with the grommets, because the grommets, because I didn't buy the kit, I don't have the holes already punched. I did buy the kit, but I didn't buy it pre-cut. If you buy it pre-cut, the grommet holes are already punched, so you have to set them, otherwise it will fray. The grommet holes are the idea that you sort of have the yarn pass through them and you knit with your project with the different, and it would help for color work and stuff. But for me, the idea of having that yarn locked through, and like, I don't know, I'm just not comfortable with that. Anyway, I just didn't want to do that. So I don't know that I never use grommets, so I might not even bother setting them. Anyway, what I did though was I cut out all of the fabric, and then I went and bought, so the really good thing that I was really happy about, I bought one field kit and one field bag kit and one town bag kit. But because there's so much fabric, and they have to give you quite a lot of fabric, because for the length, and it's a really wide, like from selvage to selvage, it's a really, really wide fabric. I had enough out of the two, this is the fabric, I had enough to cut out 3 field bags and 1 town bag. So even though I only bought one of each, I've got enough pieces cut out to make 3 of them. So I think they'll make nice gifts. So I'll, you know, make a feel bag and a town bag for myself, and I'll have a couple of feel bags to gift. So yeah, but what that did mean is that I had to buy some notions for the 2 extra feel bags. So I'm not going to do the grommets anyway. I might do the grommets on one of them, but the other notions were these bits here, the strap and the pull ties. So I bought some, just from Spotlight, some cotton rope for the pull ties, and I bought, that's a leather strap, but you could have purchased in the kit either a leather strap or a woven strap, and it was just easier for me to find a woven strap at Spotlight. So I've got enough there for the extra supplies. So hopefully next weekend I might actually sew. Right, I think that's it for the craft today. So if you've enjoyed watching, if you could do the whole like, and if you haven't already subscribed, that would be really nice. Then you'll see when my either my regular weekly podcasts or my tutorials come up. And yeah, now I'm just getting it on to a little bit of personal stuff. So for personal stuff, I'm a high school maths teacher. That's my main job. And we were on school holidays for the last couple of weeks, and I just started back this Monday. So last week was just enjoying the last little bit of the holidays and getting my things ready to start teaching Extension 2 maths, and tidying up the house and getting ready to go back to school. And I had my first 7 a.m. Maths class with all of the really keen Year 12 students who love maths and are really excited to be there, so they don't mind being there at 7 a.m. They were actually locked out of the school. The gates weren't open, so that was I was just fortunate that someone like a cleaner was coming in and they got let in, because there was nobody in the room. I was like, where are all my students? So I had 20. I've lost one already. I'll probably, she didn't disappear, she just chose not to continue with the course. I'll probably get down to like maybe 10. It's a really challenging course, and it's not that the kids can't do it, it's just that it takes a lot of time, and if they're doing time on that, they can't do time on their other subjects. So anyway, I'm really enjoying it, and I just it's really exercising my brain, and yeah, I'm loving it. So that's what's happened in my last week. This week coming up, I did mention in my last podcast that we were planning on going to the US for Christmas, so for our summer holidays. But Alex put in leave at work. She's our 18-year-old daughter, and she hasn't been at this job for very long, and so her leave got turned down, which is, it happens, right? It's pretty normal in jobs, especially if you don't have any leave owing, to get that much, to get what would have been I think 2, at least for her, 2 or 3 weeks of leave without pay. So that was a learning experience for her to go, oh, what does that mean? Anyway, as a result, we've decided not to go to the US this Christmas. I think what we might do is we might go to Europe in July, the early July, June, July holidays. I get 3 weeks there. So yeah, I'd love to go. I have a friend who lives in London, another friend who lives in the Czech Republic, and another friend who lives in Germany. So I'd love to go see them. And I haven't been to Europe for, nearly 20 years. So it would be wonderful to go. So I think that's what we might do instead of Christmas in the US. We might June, July, in the warm months in Europe. So there'll be a bit of planning there, and I haven't really decided exactly where, but we'd just like to go see those friends and also just do a bit of travel and take Zach maybe. I'm not sure if the girls would be up for coming, but yeah, I'd like to. Zach's our youngest, it'll be nice to take him. So that's kind of our plans coming up. Other things, that's obviously much further off. And another thing that's further off, Live, there's this band, if you're a child of the 80s like me, I'm 50, I really loved Live, the band Live, and they're touring Australia in April next year. My husband really likes them too, so we got tickets to go see them with some other band called Incubus that I've never heard of, so probably that's for the young kids. But I might start listening to their music just to see what that's about, so that's something nice to look forward to. More sooner coming up, I've got another 7 a.m. class tomorrow morning. I've got a teaching mistakes class at Skein Sisters that I'm doing that on Saturday morning. I had a class scheduled for Knit My First Beanie in the afternoon, but the temperature here at the moment, so it's 34 degrees Celsius today, which is about 93 Fahrenheit. And I don't think anyone's thinking about knitting beanies at the moment. So that class didn't sell at all. So that class got cancelled, which is, I'm glad that there wasn't just like one person booked in, because that's always a bummer, having to tell someone they can't come to a class that they're excited about. So nobody booked in, so I've got that afternoon free. So maybe that's when I'll sew. I might try sewing the feel bags tomorrow afternoon after I teach the fixing mistakes class. I love the fixing mistakes class too, because it really empowers people when they've like something hasn't gone, that, you know, or they just have done something and they're not sure why, what's actually happened. So to be able to give them that awareness of how the stitches are constructed, and when something looks like that, what's actually happened and how to fix it without pulling the whole thing off the needles. So yeah, so I'm looking forward to that class. Anything else? I think that's it actually. Oh yeah, Zach's at KFC, the usual Saturday night. I'll be picking him up at 11 o'clock at night. So yeah, so I'll be up late anyway. So I don't know if I'll be sewing that late, but yeah, plenty of time to just knit and watch telly and go out and get him. So that's my week. That's stuff coming up for me. You know, if you're new here, thanks for checking out the podcast, and if you're a returning viewer, thanks for being here and visiting me again, and I will see you next week.